Reacher Season 2 ending explained. How does Reacher save the day? And so, with a mighty punch, a hail of bullets, and a monotone mumble, another thunderous season of Prime Video's Reacher has come to an end. Mercifully for us Reacherites, the show has already been renewed for a third season which cannot come fast enough. Now, as predicted, Alan Ritchson's dose of Dad TV saved the day once again and in spectacularly violent fashion, as we have all come to expect from the walking refrigerator. But how did we get there? Well, we go back to the conclusion of last week's episode. Reacher's old Army United, the 110th Special Investigators, have finally traced Robert Patrick's Vile Langston down, after he's been attempting to pick off the members of the team one by one. After a bit of reconnaissance, when Reacher and Neagley, Maria Sten, spy a group of troublemaking youths playing some excellent music outside the facility and antagonizing the poor security officer who is just trying to do his job, the man-slab gets a bright idea. We are straight out of the frying pan, which is probably cooking a meal with 8,000 calories that Reacher will inhale and turn instantly into muscle and into the fire as Reacher hands himself over to Langston after receiving proof that Dixon, Serinda Swan, and O'Donnell, Sean Sipos, are alive and well. Langston, as is expected from all Reacher antagonists, must make remarks about the man's stature, admiring the majesty of Reacher's sheer girth. Langston turns his back for a moment, and Reacher somehow manages to eliminate Langston's entire team using just his vibranium skull, before Langston finally invites him to take a seat after shooting O'Donnell in the leg. Outside, Neagley partakes in a spot of shooting NPCs in a barrel as she snipes the guards before telling Senator Lavoie's team to proceed with the infiltration, after calling in a favor to the sketchy senator in exchange for the assistance they provided earlier in the season. Meanwhile, she takes on the role of the noisy kids outside, playing White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. Lovely choice to draw out the poor minimum wage guard back out of the gate. Langston is irritated by this piece of musical artistry, having punched Reacher's face a number of times with very little effect. Suddenly, the raid happens, and Reacher is freed thanks to the metal fastener that he'd previously stowed away in his boot. Langston, realizing his team is outnumbered now, encourages his remaining cronies to run, and they head for his helicopter, with O'Donnell and Dixon strapped onto their beds, just like the rest of the 110th who took their final flight from this helicopter. However, they're not getting away that easily. Reacher runs after the helicopter with the grace of an elephant in heat, combined with the arthritis of an 80-year-old man, and jumps as his sheer mass renders gravity irrelevant to grab onto the wheel of the chopper. It's utterly ridiculous and absolutely magnificent. Shenanigans ensue upon the chopper, and of course, Reacher gains the upper hand, freeing Dixon and O'Donnell, although he still rescues Dixon from falling to her death via some tremendous one-arm grab on the stretcher. Langston realizes his days are numbered and offers up some information, but Reacher informs him that he doesn't need anything and allows him a private tour of the skies of New York State for 30 seconds before it all comes crashing down. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Reacher establishes that the pilot knows where to take the characters, which is a conveniently remote house in a snowy landscape that is perfect for a secret attack. What happens to Mahmoud and the military hardware? Azari Mahmoud, Ferdinand Kingsley, our creepy little middleman and arms broker, arrives to purchase the little wing-equipped missiles that fell off the back of a New Age truck into Langston's hands, armed with $65 million in bearer bonds. Unfortunately for him, Langston doesn't answer the door, a blonde rhinoceros does. Reacher confronts Mahmoud about his role in the murder of his friends, which Mahmoud brushes off, stating that he was just a middleman all along and that it's just business, even remarking about how distasteful it is to fire a gun. So Reacher shoots him, and so do the rest of the 110th. Every single bullet from their clip, too. Just to make sure. Season 2 of Reacher, Amazon Prime Video's action-packed series based on Lee Child's Jack Reacher novels, continues to spotlight the titular ex-military police officer portrayed by Alan Ritchson as a force of justice. The season finale culminates in an intense showdown, leaving fans breathless and questioning how Reacher ultimately saves the day. The setup throughout Season 2, Reacher finds himself entangled in a complex conspiracy that takes him from the quiet streets of small-town America to a sprawling web of corruption, government cover-ups, and personal vendettas. Unlike the first season, which centered on Reacher's investigation of his brother's death, this time the stakes are even higher. The plot revolves around a secret organization that threatens national security, and Reacher's involvement comes purely by chance when an innocent bystander is harmed, leading him to peel back the layers of corruption. Reacher is determined to bring the guilty to justice, regardless of how high up the chain they are. His investigation uncovers connections to powerful figures, political interests, and shadowy operatives who will stop at nothing to keep their secrets hidden. Along the way, Reacher forges unlikely alliances with old military contacts, law enforcement officers, and even some morally ambiguous characters who have their own scores to settle. The climax. Reacher faces the mastermind. As the season progresses, it becomes clear that the mastermind behind the conspiracy is someone with considerable influence, a wealthy and powerful figure pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Reacher's journey leads him to a sprawling estate where the final confrontation takes place. The tension builds as Reacher, armed with nothing but his wits, combat skills, and a relentless sense of justice, prepares to face an enemy who has access to an army of hired guns and high-tech surveillance equipment. In the final moments of the episode, Reacher infiltrates the compound where the mastermind is hiding. The audience is treated to classic Reacher, strategic, calculating, and always several steps ahead of his enemies. Through a series of well-executed action sequences, Reacher dismantles the security detail one by one, using his combat training and improvisational skills to take down heavily armed guards with ruthless efficiency. This sequence not only highlights Reacher's physical prowess, but also his tactical mind, as he carefully outmaneuvers his opponents. The twist. The inside betrayal. In a surprising twist, Reacher discovers that one of his closest allies from earlier in the season, someone he trusted and relied on, is secretly working for the villain. This revelation adds an emotional layer to the final confrontation, as Reacher must now contend not only with the physical threat, but also the psychological betrayal. The ally, motivated by self-interest and fear, had been feeding information to the enemy all along, undermining Reacher's efforts at critical moments. Despite the betrayal, Reacher remains unfazed. He confronts the traitor in a heart-pounding standoff, where sharp dialogue and tension-laden moments create a psychological battle as much as a physical one. Ultimately, Reacher's integrity and moral code prevail, and the traitor, realizing they are outmatched both mentally and physically, is forced to back down. Reacher's final move, the takedown, the mastermind, revealed to be a well-known figure with deep connections to both political and criminal enterprises, attempts to flee as Reacher closes in. In the final confrontation, Reacher's enemy tries to negotiate for his life, offering Reacher money, power, and a way out. But true to character, Reacher is unimpressed by material wealth or influence. His motivation remains singular: justice for those wronged by this corrupt figure. The scene reaches its apex as Reacher delivers a brutal yet methodical takedown of the villain using his bare hands and a combination of hand-to-hand combat techniques. This final fight is not flashy, but it is raw and realistic, staying true to the gritty tone of the show. The mastermind, though physically weaker, tries to use technology and deceit to gain an upper hand, but Reacher's relentless,